everyone, Richard Carlton here. Welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker training. I'm showing my screen, Margaret. Are we doing that today? Can you see me? Hello,
Yep,
everyone.
I am showing the screen to you. Shuffle.
Awesome. Very, very good. So we are actively working here at fmtrain.tv, bringing you great content every day. So Nick Hunter's on a little bit of a vacation now. We got some other people coming in to do some content. Upcoming broadcast schedule. So today we got HOnza on a very interesting topic. He's going to be talking. I'm going to let him talk about it, but he's got some really interesting things. And then next week is 5 days of HOnza, and what he's going through the process of showing a product that he has, a service, a product, which expedites and makes it much easier to create an iOS app based in FileMaker Go, but it's submitted to the Apple App Store. It's what the training we've had in the past called FileMaker iOS App SDK is kind of the acronym for it. HOnza has created a service that kind of streamlines it, makes it much easier to get it all set up and going, so you don't have to pull your hair out so much. But it's a really good educational process. I think it's very valuable. A little bit conceptually kind of loosely similar to what LiveCode did, except LiveCode does it differently, etc. And this is purely a Go app that you kind of retune and build. In fact, HOnza has built an app that's some interesting. It's a Wordle app. I don't use Wordle much, but a lot of people are playing the Wordle game a little bit, and it's some sort of Wordle solver thingy or whatever. I'm not sure. So it'll be very interesting to see what he has going on with that. So he has cooked and baked an app that's going in the App Store, and it's, and he submitted it, and they failed it, and he's going to resubmit it. So you're going to get all the information on that trial and error process that goes on. I will have more of an update next week on my conversation with Claris. Once again, nothing earth-shattering at this moment. I just like where their minds are at. They're starting to actually think like the developers think about trying to grow the platform. And they're talking to developers about how to do that. Instead of ignoring the developers, they're actually going out to talk to developers and say, hey, here's this idea. Do you like this idea? And we're like, yeah, that's finally you guys are thinking about stuff kind of in a way that we can help promote it, push it. So kind of exciting. Some good forward progress in that area. So I am going to bring HOnza on now. I'm going to quit sharing my screen here if I can do this. Stop sharing my screen. You'll still see my face here. Oh, quick update on FM Starting Point. People are asking me about that. We are actively in production on the new FM Starting Point that's got Nick's interface, but it's simplified under the hood, so it's easy to implement, understand for people who are not super advanced, which is most of the world. Thank you. Most of us are not as good as Nick. So that is actively in progress, but people email me and ask me about it. So we'll cover some more news next week, but I want to get HOnza going now. So HOnza, where are you and what time is it? Where are you at?
I'm in Prague, and the time now is 9 p.m. And next week, the same time, it will be 10 p.m.
So
just like you have already switched to DST almost 2 weeks ago, we are switching this Sunday.
What are we doing today? I mean, well, first tell us about your company, where you're at, and then tell us what we're doing.
Yeah, so my company is 2ForYou. We're in business since 2000, so it's a long time. And I've been working with FileMaker since 1991. It's more than half my life. So I cannot recall all the moments, but it's been a great time. I'm in love with FileMaker, in addition to being in love with my wife. So that's something that
sounds like a complicated relationship, right? So
yes, definitely.
Honey, do you love me? Do you like your FileMaker more than you love me? Yeah, I don't want to have that conversation. So yeah, all right, cool.
Okay, so today I'm going to talk about web stuff, and even though it's not always the most common thing to do with FileMaker, we use web all the time, right? Every FileMaker user is a web user as well. And sometimes we get to a point where we need to use web with FileMaker. So let me share my screen. Okay, so basically the main idea of having web connected to FileMaker is that we have a web client and we have a FileMaker server. And somehow we may need to get data from the client to the server somehow, or the other way around. So we may want to display data from a FileMaker database on the web. And Right now, with the current version, the best way to do it, if you want to do it live, is using FileMaker Data API. If you're not an API everyday user, even the abbreviation API may sound strange to you, and you may be scared of using it. So let me tell you a little bit here. Basically, API, which stands for Application Programming Interface, basically is a language or communication language for two apps to talk to each other. One app here is the client. It can be web browser like Safari or Chrome, and the other in the other app is FileMaker Server. And because web client, web browser typically is used to connect to a web server, we can also have a web server here as a intermediate object where the client talks to the web server and the web server talks to the FileMaker server. And both scenarios are possible. You can have various languages on the web server talk to FileMaker. It doesn't have to be PHP. It can be Python. It can be ASP. It can be anything that runs on the web server. The point is that whether you talk directly to the FileMaker server or through a web server that in the backend talks to the FileMaker server. If you want to talk, if you want web browser to talk directly to FileMaker server, the way to do it is using JavaScript, because all modern web browsers support JavaScript on the client side. The downside of this is security, because in order to talk directly to FileMaker server, the JavaScript, which is easy to explore on the client side, needs to somehow authenticate against the server to get the data or to send the data and communicate with it. So if security is a concern, doing it through a web server may be a better way. Another reason to use a web server is that because the web server can be caching data, it can be like the middleman who can easily handle thousands of concurrent users and only communicate with the FileMaker server when it's really needed. So this is the basics, but as I mentioned, some people may be scared of FileMaker Data API. Even though it's quite easy to understand, it still has its level of complexity. So what we built originally for ourselves, but we also made it available as an open source, is called fmRESTor. It's a simple PHP and JavaScript framework, which basically lets anyone who knows a little bit of PHP or JavaScript and a little bit of FileMaker the possibility to leverage the FileMaker Data API without actually having to learn FileMaker Data API. And what you can do with it, it's up to you. You can build like web forms to collect data from users. You can build dynamic websites that contain data live pulled from FileMaker, or you can hack into someone's website, just like I did with Richard Carlton, to fill his website all with my face and name.
Okay, wait a minute. What
Just kidding.
All right.
But let me tell you a little bit about, or show you how you can use this fmRESTor to easily integrate web with FileMaker. So on our website, we recently published an article which is called "Adding Webhooks to FileMaker is Easy." So in this article, there is a simple file which you can download. You can put it on your web server, on your FileMaker server, and it's just a simple task manager created from the Claris supplied templates. It's the starter solution, but I have added a few functions into it, and one of them was simply the ability to click a link on the web to mark a task as complete. So the key thing that you will need to know when working with FileMaker Data API is that FileMaker identifies records using the internal ID, which you don't even have to see if you don't use this function get record ID. Here, this is a URL which basically leads to a PHP script which I have installed on my server, and that PHP script is the intermediate thing that is the middle component which my web browser talks to, and that connects through fmRESTor to FileMaker server. So here, this is the script where in the beginning I simply insert fmRESTor and reference it, and the first thing I have to do is I create a new object by calling fmRESTor and providing it my FileMaker server address, the file name, layout name, username, and password. Then here the few ifs here are standard PHP stuff that you want to have if you have a dynamic web page or API or script accessible from the public internet. You want to have at least a little bit of security to make sure that if someone tries to hack into it, they will get presented with an error message that it's not working. So like if you try to call the script with no authentication token, it tells you that you have authentication token missing. If you call it with the wrong authentication token, it will tell you it's invalid. And if you don't provide the parameters that the script is expecting, it tells you another error message that you didn't provide the parameters. So this is what should be now working. But a typical situation when working with something new is that you try to install it and you discover that it doesn't work, right? Something went wrong. So here I will go through very simple troubleshooting to show you how you can deal with such things. So in PHP, the best way, or my favorite way how to discover what's going wrong is use var dump function, which will tell you what you're getting into a variable. And this way, when I modify the script and run it again, it will tell me what exactly result it has got from fmRESTor, which is taken from the FileMaker Data API. And here I can see that I have provided invalid user account or password. So I will just put the password through the security, run the script again, and here I can see that the task. Oh, sorry, I have skipped one more error here. So let me go. Okay. Here, the next error is layout is missing. So that was another mistake that I made, that I used the wrong layout name in the script. So I have to check in the database what the layout name is. And that's one key thing to remember with FileMaker Data API, and that it's based on layouts. So basically, I need to modify the layout name here, and so the key thing to remember about FileMaker Data API is that in order to provide the API with a context, it always starts at a layout. So just like it's always good to know which layout you start on with a script in FileMaker, with the Data API, you also have to provide a layout name so that it starts in some place and not from nowhere. So you need a layout, and it's also the layout also has another feature, another reason, and that's to specify which fields from the FileMaker table to make available through the API. So now I create a new record, and it's obviously status is not complete yet. So let me try to mark it as complete through the data API by calling the script in a web. So I'll grab the URL here from the calculation. So now it contains the record ID as a parameter. And when I try to hit it, what happens? Wow, another error. So let's see what the error is. So in the bottom, I will find the message. A record is in use by another user. Okay, I didn't commit the record. So now when I try it again, you can see that the record has been marked as completed. So it's working, and it's a very simple way how to modify data in FileMaker. So you can just grab this example from our website, install it on your server, and try it out. But let me do a little bit more here. I will make a copy here, and instead of writing to the record, I will want to get data from the FileMaker record.
Okay.
So I will start at fmRESTor.com, which takes me to the Do4U software website with fmRESTor. And here, when you hit download, you get the GitHub where you have all the PHP sources and also documentation. You can see that we have two versions, PHP and JavaScript. So I will look at the PHP version here and find the method that I need to actually get data. So I'll fast forward a little bit, and the method is getRecord, surprisingly. And here I see that there are some optional parameters which let me not only get data from the record, but also run a script, but I don't need that at the moment. So I will just use getRecord without additional parameters. So here I will modify the script. And instead of editing record, I will be getting record. I don't need a second parameter. Just to polish the script a little bit, I will change the variable names. And again, because the next step is to get something simply working, but not necessarily everything at once, I will use the same technique to get at least a sense of what I'm getting from the API to see how I can work with it. So I will use this content type header simply tells the web browser that it's plain text so that it respects line endings and things like that. And here I will just display what I get from the API. So when I go to web browser, I'll go to, and try to, I need the URL, so I'll grab it from FileMaker again. I don't know how many of you are used to use Data Viewer, but for me, it's a best friend. Every time I make something with FileMaker calculations, I always start by testing it here before I finally use it. So now I get the URL, and this is what I get from FileMaker when I try to get record. So as I scroll down, you see that there is some data. There is also a status object or array, which contains a lot of useful information, such as how long it took to actually get the data. So it gives you much more than what you really need, but that also makes it a little bit difficult to get just what you need, because there is a lot of mess that you need to get rid of. So I'll just go through the structure here, and now it just gave me the task status. So So here's the reason why you need to use layouts for the data API. And this is by the way also a performance optimization thing, because if you have different forms or different scripts, and not all of them need all the data from the record, you can optimize those scripts by having a separate layout for each, where you only have the fields that you really need to work with. Because if you put all your fields on the layout, it will always send all the fields to the other side, and that's simply a waste of energy and waste of resources. So this way I have added a few fields, and now the next step is, as you can see, to actually get access to those fields. This is also important to know, because you are exposing your database to the web, to the public usually. So it's very important to use the approach of only allowing what's necessary and nothing else. If you just allow access to everything, that you can very soon get into trouble. So it's good to start with having everything forbidden and only allowing access to what you really need. So here I will allow access to just a few fields. And if I refresh the page, you'll see, okay, one more field missing, the priority, I forgot. So let's add that one as well. And once we have that access, it will show up on the web. And here we go. So now we have all the records, all the fields that we wanted from the task record. But as you can see, in addition to having field data, there's also something called portal data here. So this is field data, and then there's also portal data. It's empty, but this indicates, well, we may have a portal on the layout and get some related data. That's cool, isn't it? So let me add a portal here to the layout. And because the task manager lets me assign multiple people to the task, which are assignees. So let me add assignees to the portal, and maybe just grab a first name, last name, and email. Okay, now you think that the next step is to also allow access to those fields, of course, in security. So let's do that. So those are from assignee, so we need to allow viewing records and some fields. So let's try now. Okay, we have some additional, well, we have a portal called assignees, but there are no records. So let's take a look at the first task where I did have an assignee, or assign myself here. So that's the record with the ID number 1. Okay, so there is something missing. And this is also, so if you have ever worked with record level privileges in FileMaker, you may already have an idea where this is going. The point is that because we have a relationship here, in order for FileMaker to resolve the relationship, it needs not only access to the record and fields that I want to show, but also to the fields and records which are used to connect that relationship. So because there is a middle table, join table, which is connecting records from assignees to tasks, I need to allow access to these fields as well. And also the primary key in tasks. And when you start working with web integrations, you will discover that setting up privileges will be maybe 1/3 of all your troubleshooting. This is just from experience. It always happens that the privileges are not exactly the right way configured. So now let's try to dig into the structure. You see that what we get from the API is a structure where there is a result, the result contains field data and so on. So let's just try to dig a little bit deeper and see if we can get just the data out of it. So now we are one level deeper. We need response and data. When you're starting, when you're like a beginner, it's always good to do like small steps. Otherwise you very quickly get into point that something doesn't work and you don't know why. So doing it one step at a time at the beginning is always a good idea. It takes a little longer, but you save a lot of troubleshooting energy. So now we have just the field data of the tasks. And the other thing we can add is grabbing the data from the portal. So let me just grab the whole thing again. Yeah, it needs to take a refresh, okay. And now in the portal data, we get the assignees portal. So I can get portal data, assignees, and that gets me to the data from the portal. And from here, I already have the data in a structure that's easy to work with. And the following work is just plain PHP. As I mentioned, fmRESTor is made for people who know a little bit about PHP, but don't necessarily want to learn FileMaker Data API. So now it's a pure PHP work, no more working with the data API, anything like that, just pure PHP.
Ruben had a question about, so are you using the PHP or XML gateway, or are you using the DAPI gateway on FileMaker server with your RESTor?
fmRESTor uses the data API, so it's going through that path. It's the newest one. XML is as far as I know, deprecated now. PHP API is maybe even no longer working with the latest version. This is the newest one, which is in the backend based on Node.js, and it's way more performant than any of the previous APIs. It's also fine-tuned for more simultaneous connections. So right now it's the best way how to get data from FileMaker live to a web interface, and that's what fmRESTor is using. There is one thing that is quite as I said, additional complexity layer, which is one of the reasons we created fmRESTor, because of how security needs to be handled these days. The way FileMaker Data API works is that you start by one connection where you authenticate, that generates a temporary authentication token, which you have to use for subsequent calls to the Data API. And this concept itself, even though it's quite well designed from the modern security perspective, is quite complex for someone who has never used it, and for a beginner to pick up with that is quite a challenge. So within fmRESTor, we just handle it automatically in the backend for you, and you don't have to worry about it.
All right, so Oregon Dean has a good comment here. There are several PHP libraries for the Data API. I worry about how to keep libraries across sites up to date if things change with the Data API from Claris. I know the same problem exists if we code the PHP from scratch. I think I saw a Composer install. Is that correct? Composer that makes things a bit easier to update once Composer is installed? Question mark.
Yes, exactly. We discovered that as well, and we also use Composer ourselves. So when I go to the fmRESTor website and back to the GitHub, there is actually Composer configuration here available as part of it. Here you see the compose JSON, and when we release an update to fmRESTor, you can easily get automatically automatically update your copy. And there is a similar thing for JavaScript version as well. So just like just like PHP has Composer, for JavaScript there is a similar thing available. So we have it whether you use PHP or JavaScript version of fmRESTor, you can stay up to date automatically without issues if you are used to these tools.
Oregon Dean, are you using Composer? Because I am not using it. I don't. Maybe some of my team use it, but I mean, I used to great depth, and I don't have time to do it anymore. But these are also good topics, right? Ruben pointed out that Node.js was something he was interested in, and we should think about that. We had a lot of basic beginning people here, HOnza, and your presentation I think was good for people who have some experience in this area, but for a lot of people who come to the live stream are fairly new, and it was a lot of data way too fast. Their little heads exploded, right? So
yeah, well, that's why I'm glad that your streams are also available afterwards as a recording. So well, it's always good to go through it again at your own pace, and you can also get in touch with us if you have any questions. Yeah, maybe one more thing that I can suggest here is that article that I mentioned about webhooks.
Yep, I actually pasted that into Discord. Margaret, if you're pasting other stuff into
I posted it across. Oregon Dean actually
so basic what I wanted to say is that with this article there is a video, and in that video I also go a little bit more step by step also through how to add the script to your web server or FileMaker server, and how to make it all work together.
Okay, good. Well, then maybe that would be that would probably help people get up to speed on that. The upcoming broadcast schedule for this next week is more HOnza, but we're going to slow HOnza down. He's going way too fast today. So next week is going to be going slow. Nope. Next week you got to do it step by step. We're going to I held back on asking you questions because I knew it would derail your video. But next week, no video, right? You got to do it for real, right? So
yeah, it's going to be more step by step and at slow pace. So what we are going to cover in the 5 days is something that experienced person can do probably within 2 or 3 hours.
Sure.
But for someone doing it for
anyone who knows how to do this already is not going to watch this live stream, right? So this is for people who have not ever done an iOS app SDK, or maybe you watched my training from 7 years ago or 6 years ago, and you went, oh yeah, but I never did it. It's a faster way of getting your app. With what HOnza is doing with his service, you pay a couple $100 for it, and so it's not like a free thing next week. But for $200, and you can save yourself days and days of learning. I think that's unless you make less than $5 an hour, you'll save money next week by watching the training.
And I would say it's not just for people who want to make an app, make a native app. It's basically useful for everyone who wants to run a FileMaker app on iPad or iPhone, because as I will be covering that in the first session, there are many reasons why using this, even for a regular in-house use of FileMaker, and why it's better than FileMaker Go. And it's fully supported by Claris. It's not bypassing them or doing something unsupported.
You're just simplifying the process, which is really nice. So, in fact, where did I have that PowerPoint? Is that over here? Or you were working on he was working already on the PowerPoint, folks, for next week, and so I was reviewing that. So each day we're talking about this, kind of like if you guys remember the live code conversation. So it's like, we're going to build an app, we're going to submit it to Apple. Apple has to review it. They might approve it. They might fail it. If they fail, what do we have to do to fix it? Resubmit it until it goes on the website. It's good. It's a good thing to learn to do, and it simplifies it because there's not enough people that do this in the FileMaker community for me to really make training on it. But HOnza makes it so much simpler that so your service, we'll cover it next week, but your service is pretty inexpensive, right? I mean, in the scheme of things, a couple $100 or something, whatever it is, right? How much is it?
I believe it's $100 per year, and it's the same amount you pay to Apple for the Apple developer account. So
it's cheaper than that, yeah. So it's pretty inexpensive.
Then you also have to pay the FileMaker developer subscription to Claris. So we are not asking more, and for what you get for it, you get the money back just after 1 day using it on the time that you save.
Yeah. So next week is about building your own FileMaker Go app that you can sell or give away on the Apple App Store. So pretty cool topic. Monday week we're gonna be kicking off the iOS app SDK, FileMaker iOS app SDK, with HOnza and his super duper product. He'll tell us all about it, and we look forward to that. So with that, Margaret, everyone have a great weekend. Be safe or have fun. Of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir!